and welcome to a special mystery movie review. This week on April 20th, Regal did a special double feature of mystery movie horror editions. One was labeled Scares, and the other one was labeled Nightmares. My theater had one showing of each film, one at 7 p.m. and one at 9:50 p.m. While I like being able to see both of the movies, that 9:50 p.m. was really rough. Other theaters had 4 showings, both playing at 7 and both playing at 9:50. The 2 movies that were shown were Over Your Dead Body for the Scares edition and also Hokum for the Nightmares edition. But we're going to talk about Over Your Dead Body first. A dysfunctional married couple retreats to a secluded cabin to repair their relationship, but each secretly plots to murder the other. Plus, they aren't the only ones looking for an escape.
Rated R.
First and foremost, Over Your Dead Body is 100% not a horror movie. There's absolutely 0 horror elements throughout. Even the movie studio that made the film doesn't consider it to be horror. I have no idea why Regal would pretend that this was a horror movie. It ruined the whole horror double feature films for me. This false and deceiving marketing is getting very annoying. What's even worse is that this non-horror movie wasn't even that good. Plus, it's a remake. Jason Segel plays Dan, a washed-up director who now makes pop-up ads. He is miserable in both his professional and personal lives. He concocts a plan to kill his wife on a camping retreat in the forest. Segel is fine in the role. He plays the sad loser character well, but it's pretty one-note. He does have some character growth throughout, but it takes a lot to get there. Samara Weaving plays Lisa, an Australian actress and wife to Dan. She's just as miserable as Dan, and she's plotting her own retaliation against his plan to kill her. Weaving's performance is also pretty one-note for the majority of the film. It was mostly just snappy retorts. The chemistry between these 2 leads was pretty non-existent for me. It often felt like they were just reading off insults to each other. There wasn't any real flow. I found it impossible to picture them ever being happy with each other. The movie also never shows them like that in flashbacks or anything. It's hard to care about the characters' relationship when it feels like an afterthought. The other major players in the film are Timothy Olyphant, Keith Jardine, and Juliette Lewis as 2 escaped convicts and a prison guard. They mostly come off as violently goofy. Their conversations feel like skits in between the violence. I will commend Juliette Lewis though. She does give a really powerful emotional performance later on in the film. The last side character is Michael, Dan's father, played by Paul Guilfoyle. I absolutely hated his character. He's supposed to be this tough as nails, unsympathetic boomer, but really he's just abusive. He's abusive to his son and to the staff at the retirement home where he lives. That includes physical abuse. He assaults the healthcare staff and is played off for laughs. The plot of the movie is kind of nonsensical. Why would 2 very unhappy spouses plan to murder each other instead of, getting a divorce or maybe trying some therapy? It's mentioned that they're having some money issues, so splitting their assets wouldn't be too hard. It's obvious that neither of them want anything to do with each other, so why not just call it quits? I think that just signing some papers would be a lot easier than trying to get away with murder. Over Your Dead Body is directed by Jorma Taccone, a member of the comedy troupe Lonely Island, who also used to write for Saturday Night Live. There were too many moments where that was painfully obvious. Characters would say a line that's meant to be funny, and then the camera would pan to other characters for their reactions. It was like the director was allowing the audience to get their laughs in. And when those jokes didn't land, it was just an awkward silent pause, which happened a lot. My audience laughed more than I did, but even they only laughed at about 50% of the dialogue. Because just about every single line was meant to be a joke. It was trying way too hard. But so much of the humor felt dated and stale. Ever want to see somebody covered in urine? Well, you're in luck because it's here. What about vomit? Good news, there's at least 20 seconds of somebody repeatedly throwing up. And don't worry, all the other characters stop what they're doing just so they can watch. There's also a running gag about sexual assault that felt woefully out of place. This movie is framed as like a goofy, dark comedy, but then the criminal's trying to sexually assault someone. It's a tonal shift that bothered me for the rest of the film. How can I chuckle at these criminals knowing that they just tried to rape someone? Of course, your mileage may vary. I do want to commend the movie on its blood and gore. There are some really entertaining fight sequences here, with varying degrees of violence. Some injuries were fun and creative. My audience had a blast with the over-the-top gore. It was the movie's strongest aspect. I did find it odd, though, how Dan's face got all messed up, but Lisa's didn't. Both were knocked around a bunch, but only Dan seemed like he just stepped out of a boxing ring, while Lisa looked like a model doing a bloody photo shoot. The ending was super predictable, but I didn't mind. I was just glad that it was over. Almost 2 hours of cringy humor and poor chemistry was tiring. The few laughs I had and the fun gore just wasn't enough to enjoy the film. And that is why I'm giving the Regal Mystery Movie Scares Horror Edition the miserable marriage score of 4.5 out of 10. Honestly, if it wasn't for the sexual assault gag and the pee humor, it could have been higher. But unfortunately, the stale jokes and the unlikable characters kept it mediocre. It was a terrible choice for a horror mystery movie. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments below. But now let's switch to the second mystery movie, the Nightmares edition, Hokum. A horror writer visits an Irish inn to scatter his parents' ashes. Unaware the property is hiding a wicked secret, what he discovers is both personal and supernatural.
Rated R.
I was so relieved that the second movie was an actual horror movie, and a pretty good one to boot. Adam Scott plays Ohm Bauman, a well-regarded horror author, and that's Ohm, O-H-M. Ohm. At first, Bauman seemed like an eccentric guy, but he's actually just a butthead. He's exceedingly rude and nasty to everyone that he interacts with. It was an immediate turnoff for me. Adam Scott does a really good job with this, though. His dry, sarcastic wit shines through. He also relays the character's terror very well. The rest of the cast, namely the hotel staff, play their roles well. They have enough characterization to be relatable, though later plot points try to inject more depth into them. This felt odd because we went most of the movie knowing just enough about them, and now we were getting more details about their personal lives, which felt kind of out of place. But it was this secondary plot, intertwined with Bowman's own personal story, that helped move the film forward. It was like trying to solve two mysteries at the same time. One being Bowman's personal issues and the other being a missing person at the hotel. Bowman travels to Ireland to spread his parents' ashes. He's staying at an old hotel that his parents once stayed at. The staff is a superstitious lot who believes in witchcraft. Bowman, being a cynic, dismisses their warnings foolishly and pays the price. The first thing I noticed about Hokum was the sound design. While the opening credits were rolling, I started to hear this man's heavy breathing and walking from the side of my head. As the credits continued, that sound of the man walking and breathing continued along the wall until it reached the front of the theater and the screen illuminated, showing a man walking through the desert. I know a lot of movies use surround sound well, but I really felt this one. It didn't end there either. The subtle sounds and ambiance permeated every scene, creating this foreboding atmosphere. It was highly immersive, and in turn, terrifying. Hearing the wailing and moaning of unknown beings all around me was unsettling. Sometimes this sound design was used for jump scares, which isn't really my personal favorite, but these sounds did correlate to pivotal plot points. While there were quite a few jump scares, I don't think they were overdone. They felt well placed. There were moments where I was waiting for another jump scare, but then it didn't happen. This movie is also not afraid to show you the shadows and the darkness. Often the only light source would be an old lantern. This led to my eyes playing tricks on me as I strained to try to see shapes moving around, especially with some of the cramped spaces that Bowman was in. Seeing something linger in the darkness at the end of a dark tunnel is truly frightening. While I was very much scared throughout the film, there were some horror elements that I felt were underutilized. The first being the witch that is mentioned in the trailer. We do see her, but it almost always feels obstructed. I would have liked some more interactions between her and Bowman. I also would have liked a bit more lore for her. Ireland has a rich folklore history that was sorely missed. The other element that needed more screen time was the creepy masked person that you see in the trailer. I see people saying that the mask was a rabbit, but it's actually a donkey. Either way, I found them genuinely unnerving. Granted, the witch is the main spooky thing, but this creature definitely deserved more screen time. Maybe the filmmakers thought it might be too much having both of them. They both have different meanings in the story, and it could confuse some people. Not me, but some people. But I think this little bit of screen time made the donkey's importance even more confusing. Plus, think of the merchandise licensing. In the end, Hokum was a refreshing horror movie. The sound design and cinematography immersed me in ways that I wasn't expecting. However, some plot details felt out of place and some horror elements were underutilized. And it's for these reasons that I'm giving the Regal Mystery Movie Nightmares Edition Hokum the bewitching score of 7.5 out of 10. I'm kind of hoping that there's a director's cut or at least some deleted scenes that have more of these horror elements. And that's it for the first ever Regal Mystery Movie Horror Edition double feature event. Over Your Dead Body was a 4.5 out of 10, and Hokum was a 7.5 out of 10. But what did you think about these two movies? Did you see both? If not, Over Your Dead Body opens on April 24th, 2026, while Hokum releases on May 1st, 2026. And don't forget to leave a comment below to remind YouTube that you want to see more of this content. And please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more honest and fun movie reviews just like this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.